Ever had your spouse humiliate you in front of your closest friends? Then pretend it never happened? That was the night Dave's marriage died. But instead of blowing up, he walked away. What came next wasn't chaos, it was clarity. And a quiet revenge that no one saw coming. You ever stand in the middle of your life and realize you've been living as a side character in someone else's story? That hit me hard one Saturday night. It was supposed to be a regular backyard birthday party in Dallas, burgers, beer, string lights, the works. I just finished flipping burgers at the grill when I heard the kind of laughter that doesn't land right. The kind that cuts. My wife, April, stood with a glass of white wine, surrounded by friends. Loud enough for everyone to hear, she said, "If Dave put half as much effort into the bedroom as he does into mowing the lawn, maybe I'd still be interested." Time froze. Conversations died. Someone coughed. Someone else stared into their drink like it had answers. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I just looked at her. Really looked, and said, "We'll talk later." Then I walked out, calm, controlled, as if her joke hadn't landed like a punch to the gut. My name's Dave Carrion. I'm 37. I work in HVAC and I like things simple. Fixing things comes naturally. But no tool in my truck could repair what she broke in that moment. April used to be my person. We'd laugh until our stomachs hurt. She used to touch my hand just to feel close. Now I was the punchline in her open mic routine. And the worst part wasn't the insult, it was how easy it came. Practiced. Like she'd told that joke before. Maybe not in words, but definitely in attitude. I left that party with her laughter still bouncing around in my skull. It wasn't rage I felt. Not sadness either. It was colder. Something still like a switch had flipped and couldn't be flipped back. Because when your wife mocks you in public and doesn't even blink after, it stops being about love. It becomes a matter of respect. The next morning, I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the dent in the pillow where her head had been. She was in the kitchen humming, scrambling eggs like the night before hadn't just split our marriage down the middle. "Sleep okay, babe?" she asked like nothing happened. I didn't answer. I grabbed my overnight bag and started packing clothes in silence. She turned around, spatula in hand. "What are you doing? Seriously?" "Packing," I said. "For not being here." She scoffed. "You're really upset over a joke? Everyone was drinking. Don't be so sensitive." That word, sensitive, hit harder than the joke. I'd spent years absorbing her cold shoulders, her digs disguised as advice, her eye rolls when I tried to connect. And now I was too sensitive? "No," I said, zipping the bag. "I'm not leaving because of the joke. I'm leaving because the joke was the final proof." "Proof of what?" "That you don't respect me, and haven't for a long time." I grabbed my keys and walked out. Her voice followed me, questions thrown like darts, but I didn't turn around. I drove to Josh's place. We'd been friends since high school. Tree houses, sleepovers, first heartbreaks. Now we were two grown men drinking beer in his living room at 10 in the morning. "She really said that in front of everyone?" he asked. I nodded. "And you didn't lose it?" "I wanted to, but that would have made it about the moment. It's bigger than that." That night in his spare room, I opened my old journal. I used to write when April and I were good. Now I wrote the stuff I couldn't say out loud. The weight of her silence, the way she sighed when I came home early, how she looked at her phone more than she looked at me. I ended the entry with a sentence that changed everything. "This isn't about love anymore. It's about respect. And I've been starving for it." The next morning, April texted. Not "I'm sorry." Not "let's talk." Just, "Don't forget the water bill's due. Can you bring back the lawn mower? Want tacos when you stop by?" Like nothing happened. She didn't just cross a line. She forgot one existed. That's when I made an appointment with a divorce lawyer. Sitting across from Carol Willis, a no-nonsense woman with a legal pad already half full, I played her a recording from the party. April's words. Her laugh. The crowd falling quiet. Carol nodded. "This is enough to begin." That night I bought a new journal. Not because I wanted to be poetic. Because I needed to speak unfiltered. No interruptions. I sat on Josh's back porch and wrote until my hand cramped. Every insult. Every time she dismissed what mattered to me. Every crack in the foundation I ignored just to keep the peace. By the time I stopped, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. April didn't break me that night at the party. She just showed me exactly how long I'd been broken. April kept texting like I hadn't walked out of our marriage with years of silence trailing behind me. Not, "I messed up." Not, "I miss you." Just casual notes about bills, errands, mundane logistics that ignored everything that mattered. To her, it seemed I hadn't left. I was just momentarily out of frame. But I wasn't waiting anymore. Each message made something clearer. She hadn't just crossed a line that night. She stopped seeing one altogether. At Josh's place, I kept to myself. Fixed a few things around his house. Took on extra HVAC jobs. Wrote every night. It wasn't about venting. It was about seeing my life from the outside, maybe for the first time. The journal filled fast. I wrote about the time April rolled her eyes while I introduced her to a coworker, how she called me emotionally needy, because I wanted to talk after she'd been out drinking 3 nights in a row. I documented not the big fights, but the thousands of small dismissals. The slow erosion of being seen, heard, valued. And the more I wrote, the more I realized I wasn't broken-hearted. I was relieved. Then something unexpected happened. A text from Laura, April's best friend. "Hey, you okay?" We hadn't talked directly in years. She and April were tight. Same college, same social circles. But Laura had always been the one who noticed things, who looked me in the eye when others avoided the tension. I hesitated before replying. "I'm good." "Why?" "Been thinking about the other night. You didn't deserve that." Her message sat on my screen longer than I'd like to admit. I'd grown used to people pretending it never happened. Laura didn't. "Thanks," I finally typed. "Appreciate that." Then she surprised me. "Want to grab coffee? If it's not weird." Should have been weird. But it wasn't. We met at a place off Lower Greenville. Not a date. Just 2 people trying to find words for things that didn't make sense anymore. Laura didn't offer pity. She offered honesty. "I laughed," she said. "Not because it was funny, because I didn't know what else to do, and I hated myself for it." "You didn't owe me anything," I replied. "But I should have said something. It was cruel." "She's done that before, hasn't she?" I nodded. "She doesn't even realize it's not teasing. It's control." Lara's eyes narrowed. "You treated her well. Always did. She turned you into a joke. I don't get it." "Maybe she's not chasing something better," I said. "Maybe she's just trying to outrun who she is." Silence settled. Not awkward. Honest. Then Laura asked the kind of question that doesn't get asked lightly. "You ever wonder what would have happened if you'd met someone else first?" I didn't know how to answer. It wasn't a line. It wasn't a proposition. It was something else, recognition. I left that cafe feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Scene. 2 weeks passed. Quiet ones. April texted occasionally, still avoiding the subject. "You still using my Netflix? Miss your coffee. Want to grab dinner? Just to talk?" I didn't respond. Instead, I threw myself into work. Texas summer doesn't wait. And I didn't want to. The time alone was healing, not lonely. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was bracing for the next criticism. I replayed my conversation with Laura more than once. Not because I was planning anything, but because for the first time, someone had stepped outside April's orbit and actually noticed me. Then came Mark's cookout. Mark was one of our mutual friends. The kind who knew nothing about anyone's personal life and liked it that way. He just wanted burgers, beer, and loud music. Josh talked me into going. "You sure?" "She'll probably be there," he warned. "I don't think she gets to decide where I show up anymore," I replied. I showed up early, helped with the grill, talked with old friends, stayed cool. Then, just after sundown, I saw her. April. Same wine glass. Same crowd. Same posture. And then same playbook. She raised her voice just enough. "You know, some men try so hard in bed, but just don't have the right tools. Bless their hearts." Silence. Again. I froze, beer halfway to my lips. But before I could react, a voice cut through the air. No, Lara. She stood up across the yard. Calm, steady, clear. The problem was never Dave, she said, walking straight toward April. The problem was you. The backyard fell silent. He showed up. He tried. He respected you. And all you did was belittle him. Constantly. April looked stunned. For once, the joke didn't land. And for the record, Lara added, I doubt Dave ever had a problem in bed. He just had a problem with who he was in bed with. Laughter. Real, uncomfortable, stunned laughter. April's face flushed. She turned without a word and walked inside. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. For once, someone else had done what I never expected. Stood up for me. The rest of the party felt different. People looked at me differently. A few shoulder claps. Nods. Quiet respect. But I wasn't focused on them. My eyes drifted to Lara. She didn't stay in the spotlight. She moved to the edge of the crowd, arms crossed, watching the fire pit burn. I found her by the fence. You didn't have to do that, I said. She looked over, her voice soft. I know, but someone needed to. We stood there, the party behind us, something unspoken between us. And for the first time in years, I realized I wasn't waiting to be chosen. I was finally choosing myself. After the cookout, things changed. Not dramatically. No confessions. No declarations. Just space. Space to think, to breathe, to see everything without the noise. April didn't text for a couple of days. When she finally did, it was short. Can we talk? No apology. No explanation. Just an open-ended question. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my phone and scrolled to a photo I'd taken that afternoon. A picture of me and Lara outside the cafe. We weren't touching. We weren't smiling for show. We were just sitting side by side, looking ahead, both of us mid-laugh about something unimportant. Felt real. I stared at the screen longer than I should have, then hit send. I didn't add a caption, didn't explain. April responded in under a minute. Really? Wow. So that's what this is now? Then another message. You replaced me that fast? I didn't answer, because it wasn't about replacing her. It was about remembering who I was, who she forgot I could be. That night, I was back on Josh's porch. Same place where this had all started to unravel. But now, the silence didn't weigh the same. It didn't suffocate. Cleared space. 5 minutes later, another text. I was wrong. I let my pride ruin everything. Can we talk? I didn't respond. Instead, I called my lawyer. The next morning, David, my attorney, texted me. Her lawyer reached out. She wants to pause the divorce proceedings. Says she wasn't thinking clearly. My reply was 2 words. Move forward. It wasn't anger. It was certainty. I'd spent years in a relationship that ran on second chances, on pretending things would eventually click back into place. But April hadn't just said something cruel. She lived in it, built comfort there, and I wasn't interested in giving her a new stage. Lara and I didn't rush anything. We didn't talk about what came next. But we did talk, really talk, about her history with April, about times she'd stayed silent when she shouldn't have, about the moment she finally snapped at the party. I didn't do it just for you, she said one night, sitting beside me on her balcony. I did it for myself, too. I've let people like her get away with too much. I needed to remind myself I still have a voice. We didn't label anything. There were no expectations. But something unspoken sat between us. Easy, steady, mutual. I spent more time in Lara's presence than I realized. She never tried to fix me, never acted like she was waiting for anything. She just listened. Sometimes that's all a person needs. To not be someone's problem to solve or someone's competition to beat. Just to be seen. Then came the message that tried to shift the entire game. April, I miss you. I've been thinking. I was scared. I pushed you away because I didn't know how to let someone that good in. It was too neat, too well packaged, the kind of script that only shows up when people realize what they've lost. Not because they miss you, but because they miss the control. I didn't take the bait. Instead, I opened my journal. Wrote everything down again, not for closure, but for confirmation. I wrote about the way her voice used to change when she was performing for friends. The way she'd compliment me only when someone else was watching. The apologies that never came when they mattered. And the charm that showed up only when she felt things slipping. And then I wrote, respect isn't earned back with a text. It's shown in the silence that follows, in how you behave when the crowd is gone. April couldn't handle that silence. Not when it meant the spotlight wasn't hers. Days passed. Then another message. I told my lawyer I want to work things out. We can go to counseling. Start fresh. You owe it to us. No, I thought. I owed myself a future that didn't start with erasing my past just to make someone else comfortable. The next time I saw Lara, she asked quietly, "Are you okay?" I nodded. "Actually, yeah, I think I am." "You sure?" I smiled. "I'm sure." She squeezed my hand gently and looked away, giving me space to sit with it. And in that quiet, I realized something. I wasn't recovering from heartbreak. I was recovering from being unseen. That night, I stood in front of a mirror, not looking for answers, just checking in with myself. I wasn't the same man who'd stood on that patio weeks ago, watching his wife turn him into a joke. That man would have tried to fix it, apologize, compromise. This one was done compromising with people who confused cruelty for confidence. For the first time in years, I wasn't chasing validation. I was choosing peace. April's texts didn't stop. They just got shorter, sharper, less like invitations and more like demands. "We need to talk. You're making a mistake. You're not even trying." That last one made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because I'd spent years trying. Quietly, consistently. The problem was, April only noticed effort when it served her. And now, she was noticing everything too late. I didn't reply. I didn't block her either. I just let the messages land and stay unanswered. Silence, I'd learned, wasn't a lack of communication. Sometimes it's the only honest one. One afternoon, I stopped by the old house to grab a few tools I'd left in the garage. She was home. I didn't expect her to be. She opened the door before I even knocked. "You're not returning my texts," she said. "I know." Her expression shifted. "So that's it? You're just done?" "I was done a long time ago," I said. "You just didn't notice." She stepped aside, letting me in like it meant something. "I made a mistake," she said, following me into the garage. "I said something stupid in front of people, but it was just a joke. You've always been too sensitive." I turned, tool bag in hand. "You keep calling it a joke like that makes it harmless. But here's the thing, if only one person's laughing, it's not a joke. It's disrespect." She shook her head, arms crossed. "So what, you think she's better, Lara?" I didn't answer, because that was never the point. This wasn't about Lara. This wasn't about moving on. It was about finally seeing myself outside the lens of someone who thought tearing me down made her bigger. "I never cheated on you," she said. "Don't forget that." "I didn't say you did," I replied. "But that doesn't mean you didn't betray me." I walked past her. No yelling. No dramatic exit. Just the final steps of a man who'd stopped trying to carry what someone else refused to hold. Later that evening, I met Lara for dinner. We didn't talk about April. We didn't need to. She already knew the full picture, and she never treated me like a wounded animal or a project. With her, I wasn't the guy trying to get over something. I was just, Dave, normal, present, whole. "You okay?" she asked over coffee. I nodded. "More than okay. I didn't think I'd feel this clear this fast." "That's because you already let go a long time ago," she said. "You just hadn't walked away yet." We sat in silence for a while, but it wasn't awkward. It was full. I didn't have to fill space to feel seen, and that's what stuck with me most. The shift wasn't about finding someone new. It was about how someone treated me without expecting anything in return. Lara didn't rescue me. She didn't even try to. She just showed up, authentic, honest, and unwilling to stand by while I was disrespected. That night, I found myself scrolling through old texts between April and me. Back when things looked fine from the outside. Back when the decay was quiet, almost invisible. Messages about dinner, errands, short jokes at my expense disguised as banter. I deleted the thread. Not out of anger, just readiness. 2 days later, Josh told me April had posted something cryptic on social media. A quote about loyalty. A line about betrayal. The usual digital performance. I guess she's trying to tell her side now, he said. She always did like an audience, I replied. What she didn't realize was that people had seen enough. They remembered the parties, the jokes, the way she laughed a little too hard, a little too loud, always at someone else's expense. This wasn't a smear campaign. I wasn't collecting allies. I didn't need to, because the moment Laura said no at that party, things shifted. The mask came off and people started seeing what I had been living with for years. There's a strange power in being quiet long enough that when you finally speak, or stop speaking altogether, people listen. And April? She didn't understand that silence. She'd been used to me returning, to me apologizing for how she treated me, to me working overtime to fix what she kept breaking. Now, nothing was being fixed. It was being left. The legal process moved fast after that. April tried to delay it, but I stayed firm. No bitterness. Just closure. The day I signed the final paperwork, I didn't celebrate. I didn't post anything. I went home, sat on Lara's balcony with a beer in my hand, and let the quiet speak for itself. She sat beside me, not saying much. Just her presence was enough. Feels strange, I said. She looked at me. Freedom always does at first. I nodded. She thought I'd come back. She underestimated you. She always did. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry about it. Just distant. Like I'd finally walked far enough away that her version of me no longer applied. There's no grand finale in moments like this. No fireworks. No dramatic music. Just a slow, steady exhale. I'd spent years waiting for someone else to recognize my value. Now I was doing it for myself. I didn't expect peace to feel so quiet. No fireworks. No dramatic goodbye. Just a kind of stillness that slowly took over the places where chaos used to live. The divorce was final. No appeals, no last-minute speeches. Just ink on paper and the end of a chapter that should have closed long ago. April didn't show up in court. She let her lawyer speak for her. Fitting, really. She always preferred to control the room from a distance. When I stepped out of the courthouse, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't some grand victory. It was something simpler. I got myself back. Later that evening, I was sitting with Laura again, this time on her porch. We weren't talking about what had happened. We weren't analyzing April's last messages or the silence that followed. We talked about work, about small, ordinary things. That was the beauty of it. Being able to exist with someone without having to fix or perform. "You okay?" Laura asked after a while. "Yeah," I said. "Actually, I am." She smiled and didn't press. She never did. That's why it worked. A few days later, April sent one final message. No sarcasm. No guilt trips. "I hope you're happy. I just wish you'd tried harder." I stared at it for a moment. I didn't feel the old pull to respond, to explain, to defend myself. I just read it and let it go. Because that message said everything about her and nothing about me. She still believed I hadn't tried. That I'd walked away because I was weak or bitter or wanted someone else. She didn't understand that I stayed too long. That I gave too many chances. That I waited, hoped, and held the line long after the other side stopped showing up. But there's no value in explaining yourself to someone who only listens when they think they're losing. So I didn't respond. Instead, I opened the same journal I'd been writing in since the night I walked out, and I wrote one last entry. You can love someone and still leave. You can forgive someone and still move on. The ending isn't failure. It's a choice to stop being invisible. A week later, Laura and I met up for a walk. No pressure, no expectations. Just time. "I've been thinking about that night at the party," she said as we walked. The moment I stood up, I think I was more scared than I let on. You didn't seem scared. I was, she admitted. Not of her, of what it meant to finally speak up. I'd been quiet for so long. I get that. And I wasn't sure if it was even my place to say anything. You said exactly what needed to be said. She looked over. I wasn't defending you, you know? I know. I was standing up for the version of you that deserved more than being someone's punchline. I stopped walking for a second and looked at her. No one's ever done that for me, I said. Well, she said. Someone should have a long time ago. We didn't say much else after that. We didn't need to. Some connections don't come from rescue. They come from recognition. And that's what Lara gave me. Not a second chance at romance. Not a way to get back at April. She gave me a mirror. One that reflected the man I forgot I could be. Weeks passed. Life didn't turn into a fairy tale. It just got simpler. Work, friends, quiet evenings. Time with Lara became more frequent. Still no labels. Still no pressure. But more moments where the silence felt like company, not absence. Then one night we sat together watching the sky fade. I think I like this version of you, she said. I think I do too. And that was the truth. I didn't come out of the marriage with scars. I came out with clarity. I didn't walk into something new out of desperation. I walked into it because someone finally looked at me without trying to reshape me. That's the real revenge, if you want to call it that. Not bitterness. Not rebound. Just rebuilding. April thought I'd come crawling back. She expected regret, desperation, some proof that I'd fall apart without her. Instead, she got silence, confidence, closure. Because the man she mocked, dismissed, and undervalued, he wasn't hers to break anymore. He was mine to rebuild. So yeah, that's the story. I didn't explode. I didn't fight. I didn't stoop to her level. I just walked away, quietly and completely. And in the stillness that followed, I found something she never gave me: respect.